Congressman Massey for their incredible leadership in this vote that's about to happen here in just a couple hours. But we also want to be very clear. Once this vote happens and goes to the Senate, we are expecting the Senate to take this vote up. And Leader Thune needs to do the right thing by the survivors and call for a vote immediately. In addition to that, we want to make it very clear to the president. He has been fighting this vote for months. After saying that he would release the files during the campaign, after his attorney general said the files were on her desk, he then flip-flops and has been doing everything in his power to stop the release of the files and stop justice for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's horrific sexual trafficking ring. But now the president, seeing a loss in the House, has flip-flopped. We're not going to forget his opposition. And we need to be clear-eyed that this new investigation that he has launched is likely another way of trying to stop the release of the files to the Congress, to the public, and for justice for the women and girls who have been fighting on this issue every day. I want to remind the president as well that he has the power to release the files today. He has the power to release the files without a vote. In fact, a few months ago, the Oversight Committee put in place a subpoena for all of the files through the Department of Justice, and still they have released nothing. And so at the end of the day, Donald Trump today can bring justice for the survivors, and he refuses to do so. It's important, and this is a message directly to Leader Thune. He needs to understand that this issue is bigger than what we're just doing here in the Congress. There are millions of girls and women that are watching our actions across the country and the world. There are millions that are survivors themselves of sexual abuse. There are millions that are being abused in their workplace or in their home. And they're watching us and asking, will our government, will our leaders actually do anything about this abuse? Or are they going to continue to hide and protect the men and abusers at the highest levels of government and power? And if the Epstein survivors who were abused by the most powerful cannot get justice, how can the millions of women and survivors across the country and world expect justice for themselves? And so this is a very important moment for the country. And lastly, I'll say this. I'm often asked, what's next? This is directly from the survivors, and I've been talking to them pretty regularly, including one just 2 days ago. They have all asked us to look where they believe the truth is, and that is in the financial and bank records of the most powerful financial institutions in this country that have the information and where the money was transferred from those powerful men who paid and were involved in the trafficking of these girls. So if you are the president of a bank, if you are a leader of a financial organization, and you are hiding information as it relates to justice for these women, the Oversight Committee is coming after those documents. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those remarks. Next up, we have Representative Kelly Morrison. Please join me in welcoming her to the podium.
Good morning. I'm Kelly Morrison, Congresswoman from Minnesota's 3rd District. It's good to be here with all of you this morning on this incredibly important day. Thank you so much to the Sexual Violence Prevention Association for bringing us together. So much gratitude to Teresa for being here today. Your bravery, selflessness, and advocacy are truly remarkable. Your courage to speak out and stand up for others is the only reason we are in this position today, finally able to try and bring the justice and transparency that is far too long overdue. And thank you to the Sexual Violence Prevention Association for delivering this letter today, bringing nearly 50 organizations dedicated to ending child abuse, sexual violence, and human trafficking together to call on Congress to pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act and demand the release of the files. Because that is exactly what today is about. Standing up against child abuse, sexual violence, and human trafficking. Today is an opportunity for us to send an important message here in D.C., across the country, and across the world. Today is our opportunity to say, no matter who you are, no matter how rich you are, no matter how powerful you are not above the law. No amount of money, power, connections, or corruption can buy you a free pass to abuse children or sell human beings. For decades, the government and people in power have been complicit in covering up the horrific abuses of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Today, we will say no more. The time has come for the victims and survivors to get the justice and the transparency they are asking for and deserve. The time has come for the perpetrators to be held accountable. The time has come for the corrupt leaders who were complicit in facilitating this to be exposed. The time has come for the American people to get the transparency they have demanded. And we have to ask ourselves, if we don't get this right, if we don't release the files and bring justice to the victims and hold the perpetrators accountable, what message would that send? Today marks a new day. Today we say this will no longer stand. We are putting the rich and powerful on notice. We are saying you cannot and will not get away with exploitation and abuse. There is nothing more deeply American than the notion that everyone has equal rights under the law. And today we are reasserting our rights as Americans. I met with survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell alongside members of the Democratic Women's Caucus earlier this fall. Their stories are harrowing. Their testimony is powerful. Their bravery is unmatched. We have seen the lengths the rich and powerful will go to cover up their crimes. But these women are putting everything on the line simply to ensure that we never allow this to happen to anyone else ever again. So today, every single member of the U.S. House of Representatives will go on record to say whether they will be complicit in a cover-up protecting pedophiles and the corrupt, rich, and powerful, or if they stand on the side of justice, truth, transparency, and the American people. It should not be lost, however, that the only reason we are having to take this vote is because the Trump administration is refusing to comply with a subpoena and release the files. The president and his administration are legally required to release the files to Congress and could do so today. They could have released them at any time since he was sworn in. Not only has he refused to comply with the subpoena, he and the Speaker of the House have tried to block the release of the files at every turn, going so far as to shut down the House of Representatives for more than a month. But Americans understand that this is simply not a partisan issue. This is about our very humanity. I hope to see this pass with a unanimous vote in the House today, and I expect the Senate to take it up immediately and pass it with the support of every single senator. And then the president must sign it into law and finally release the files so that the survivors can finally get the justice that they have been denied for far too long. It is truly the very least that we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very powerful. Please join me in welcoming Fatima Goss-Graves, President of the National Women's Law Center Action Fund.
Thank you so much. And as she said, I'm Fatima Goss-Graves. I'm president of the National Women's Law Center Action Fund. And I want to begin with deep gratitude to the survivors who have given us the gift of their stories and who have persistent in the face of a lot of resistance. I also lead the National Women's Law Center's Time's Up Legal Defense Fund, which helps to support thousands of survivors of sexual harassment and violence. And in our time running that fund, we've seen a lot. Each week, we've seen survivors who have stories of powerful men using their influence to create harm and to escape accountability. And we've also seen the many ways that survivors risk everything to simply tell their story and get the justice that they deserve. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, they were predators. They used money and connection to exploit and silence and terrorize young women for gratification of Jeffrey Epstein and his friends. But we know abusers are often enabled by individuals and enabled by networks who allow violence to occur and continue and who ensure silence and shame. 6 years after his death, survivors and the American people are still demanding answers about those who participated in covering up the rape and abuse of children. And in fact, we've seen a whole of government approach from the president to the Department of Justice to Speaker Johnson, who have all tried to use their power to prevent the truth from coming out. So it's up to all of us to ensure that none of this is swept under the rug any longer. This isn't politics, this is about justice. And anyone suggesting otherwise is ignoring the reality of what these young women endured at the hands of these men. And, you know, I have to say, as a leader in the fight for gender justice today, I would not have imagined in this time that I would be speaking with the same voice as some of the members who've joined in support of the discharge petition. We disagree strongly on many issues, and today we are able to all come together and demand the release of information on abuse, especially those who currently hold positions of power. And we agree that people across this country, they deserve to know. Democracy and transparency are worth fighting for. Justice for survivors are worth fighting for. And holding the powerful accountable here, it is worth fighting for. So for the survivors who so bravely came forward, our task is to ensure that nothing like this happens again, and that starts with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. It is the only way, as you have heard, to release all of the records and to ensure accountability that the survivors and that the American people have been calling for. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, please join me in welcoming Jenna Sherman, Campaign Director for Ultraviolet.
Thank you so much, Omni, for the kind introduction. What an absolute gift and honor to be here with all of you today. My name is Jenna Sherman. I'm a campaign director for gender justice organization Ultraviolet Action. I'm also a survivor and a rape crisis counselor. Ultraviolet Action is so incredibly proud to be one of the 47 organizations, 48 total, I think, signed on in support of passing the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We are deeply grateful to our fellow organizations for staying steadfast in the fight to release all files, even amidst pathetic feet dragging and finger pointing. We are deeply grateful to House leadership and many of the representatives who have spoken today and who couldn't be here for tuning out the noise and doing what is right. And above all, we are deeply grateful for and in awe of every single survivor abused at the hands of pedophiles Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Your bravery, your resilience, and conviction are changing our political reality. Your power is palpable and it is unstoppable. At Ultraviolet, we are so fortunate to work with powerful survivors every single day. And we know that sexual violence is a major health epidemic, one that is far too common and touches all of us. That's right, all of us. Abusers and survivors can be from any political party, ideology, religion, or belief system. That's why we have come together today as a powerful bipartisan coalition to demand accountability for every powerful man and woman, regardless of background or political party, who partook in or enabled Epstein and Maxwell's abusive and criminal enterprise in any way. If there are sexual predators out there grooming and sexually exploiting kids and teenagers, and yes, newsflash, teenagers are children, we, the public, must know. These abusers are rich, they are powerful, and in many cases, they are controlling parts of our country. But we are here to make loud and clear that they are not above the law and that they must pay the price for their crimes. These perpetrators losing their jobs and reputation is nothing compared to the mental and spiritual anguish experienced by the over 1,000 survivors whose lives were irrevocably altered, some of whom we have heartbreakingly lost to suicide. There are real, lifelong consequences, even intergenerational consequences, to experiencing sexual abuse, and especially child sexual abuse. And we are done with those consequences being used as a political football with zero accountability. The only path to truth and justice is to pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act in the House and Senate. Only then can abusers be held accountable. Only then can we get the transparency that we need and deserve. And hopefully then, survivors can begin to truly heal. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, truly. Thank you to every member of Congress who is pushing for the truth, to every nonprofit leader standing with us, and most of all to the survivors who continue to show extraordinary courage and resilience. You are the reason we are here. Your strength is what makes this fight possible. Thank you to the 47 organizations who joined our letter. This coalition proves that when survivors lead, the nation must follow. Let me make one final call. Congress must pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act. The American public deserves the full truth. Survivors deserve justice, transparency, and accountability. Preventing the sexual violence epidemic in our country requires addressing this egregious harm and uprooting the systems and institutions that permitted and concealed it. Our democracy depends on our willingness to confront this head on. With that, we will now take about 5 minutes of questions.
You know, we're seeing, I mean, this is a demand from the nation, from people. It's not a partisan issue. So many people, regardless of political ideology, want to see what is in these files. Trump promised that on day one, when he was elected, he was going to release the information, and here we are stuck. And my concern truly is that with this, partisan sort of launching of investigation of just Democrats that are implicated, that will hold up in some way the release of the full files. And so I do think that we have to look at that for sure. Yes. Yes. I think really any way that we can get more transparency and more justice for the survivors, we need to utilize every avenue. So if Prince Andrew has information that would be beneficial to Congress, then we should utilize that avenue. Well, I mean, if the leadership that has been working on this issue much longer than I have believe that he has insightful information, then we should utilize that option. Yeah. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I believe it's another delaying tactic. I do think that the Transparency Act really covers that information and trying to protect survivors. And so, again, my concern is that there continues to be this resistance in releasing information that the public is demanding, because we want, one, survivors are demanding it. And they need to be able to move forward and begin this healing process. And every turn that this administration takes in trying to prevent the full information from getting out is just another ploy to hold on and protect, you know, pedophiles and protect people in power. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's just been revealed that Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett was actually texting with Jeffrey Epstein during a hearing. I know you're new here, welcome. But what is your response to that? And should Democrats move to censure her, saying she was texting with a convicted child sex offender?
I have no information about that. I can't verify that information, and so I'd rather not speak on it.
Happy to follow up on that.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of your work on this issue. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry, this was such a whirlwind. Yes, thank you. I really appreciate you guys being here.